guys, welcome to the Something About Tuesdays podcast. I'm your host, Phebe Joi. Join me every other Tuesday for a lighthearted podcast to keep you company while you do your thing. Hey guys, welcome back to Something About Tuesdays, episode 62. I'm your host, Phebe Joi, and hi, hey, and welcome. Hey everybody! I hope you've had a great last couple of weeks. Mine have been pretty good, semi-eventful, semi-uneventful at the same time. Oh my goodness. And you all, I think this is my last episode before school starts. The next episode, I will be in school. The kids won't be there yet, but I would have had 2 days of work. Oh my goodness. I think anyway, let me see. So this comes out Tuesday and we've got 2 weeks. Yeah. Oh my, oh my. So yeah, if you've got kids, I mean, they're about to be back, y'all. You're about to get some relief. I'm just kidding. I'm kind of actually looking forward to work. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it has been for me such a home-based summer, which I'll probably get into later, either this episode or the next one. And because of that, I'm kind of like, okay, I think I'm ready to go back to work, but I don't even know if that's going to be a thing. I know, right? I know. We'll get there. But anyway, so hey everybody, I hope you have had a last couple of good weeks. The weather's still pretty hot, pretty hot, upper 80s, I would say. And we also had some stormy weather as well, which again, y'all, I love summer rain. It gets me excited every time. It cools things down sometimes. But that's been great. So today's episode, let me just go ahead and say, I'm not entirely sure how long it'll go. I have my regular list of things, um, but it kind of just depends. This might be either a short episode or a long one. I'm not entirely sure. We're gonna play it by ear, and see what happens. Okay. But regardless of everything, I'll keep y'all posted in the loop of how it all goes down. This might also be a very, I don't want to say random episode because all my episodes are pretty random, but as far as timing, normally I keep notes throughout like my 2 weeks. Like I'll just jot stuff down, like, oh, this is funny. Oh, that's interesting. Or oh, that happened. Oh, I was just thinking that. And then sometimes I try to find a way, usually before the episode, to kind of organize it so that way things flow a little smoother and I can just start talking about things and just kind of flow, like just be like, oh yeah, I was gonna say that, and it connects. Y'all, I did not do any of that organizing. We're going straight off the cuff, like just straight right into all my little notes. So if it seems like I am everywhere, you guys just know I am everywhere. um, but sometimes those are the best episodes because trust me, this is not the only episode that I've done this with, but I've had some really fun ones whenever that is the case. So we'll see how this one turns out. It'll either be the best episode you guys have ever heard, or you're gonna be like, oh, okay. Sure, that was good. When's the next one come out? So anyway, so my first note, and it's so funny, I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is hilariously out of order of how I would normally do things. But my first note is I wrote down USPS, so United States Postal Service returns are so awkward because it is so quiet. And anytime, and like, there's a lot of things that attribute to, for me, the awkwardness of the United States Postal Service place. I can return things. I am a pro at returning things. I return things from Amazon, from Shein, from any place. You guys, I bought a couch off Amazon, the one that is actually in my pro now because I tried to return it and issues there. But I bought this big old couch, didn't like it. I bought a couple, packed those things back up, hauled them in my car, and put those things on a dolly and returned them to the UPS store. Like that's how much I do not mind doing a return. Like it doesn't have to be little in a bag, nothing. I'll return anything. But when it says like when the return options, and if you return to Amazon or Shein or anything, then usually it's like, okay, we can return to the UPS store. You can return to Kohl's if it's Amazon. You can return to sometimes Whole Foods, things like that. Yeah, right. Those places. And then the ones where it's like, you can also return to the United States Postal Service. I'm like, oh, because those are so weird. All the other places you go in, it's like they're anticipating you to return those things. They know what to do. So does the USPS, but it's so different because automatically, when I walk into any postal service place, it is like silent. When you go to Kohl's or something, there's like music in the background or there's like people milling about. When you go to the United States Postal Service, it is silent in there. And that might be like a rule that they have to have, but it's so quiet that you hear everything, every conversation, every request, everything. It's quiet. And then people were just waiting in line quietly, or some people talking. When I went, people were waiting in line quietly. And then you just have the people up front. And I feel like USPS workers anticipate, I think they know that you don't know what you're doing. I don't know. Like, I feel like everybody goes into the Postal Service not entirely sure what they're doing. I don't know. Like, I'm confident at any other places where I go to return stuff. I go there and I'm like, do I need to do something? Do I need to say something? And it was easy. You guys, when it was my turn, I was like, they actually asked me, do you have a return? I was like, yes. And they let me scan my little barcode. They gave me the little thing and they're like, okay, thanks, bye. But like, I don't know why, but I was like, this is awkward. Like when I went before to get my passport, I was like, what am I doing? And I feel like everything I'm doing is wrong. Like I'm standing in the wrong spot or it just makes me anxious in there. I don't know what it is. I think it is the lack of music. And I think it is because I don't know exactly what I'm doing when I'm returning stuff, when I'm buying stuff. I'm like, I need a stamp. Could you stamp this? And they tell you what to do. It's not like they leave you hanging or anything like that. They tell you what to do, but I was like, I'd rather just know what to do going in. And I feel like I never know what to do, even though literally I knew what to do. It was just awkward. And I was like, I don't like coming to the USPS. I don't. I was like, this isn't good for me. That being said, the people were friendly, and they're never not friendly, right? Like, but they are. I will say they are matter of fact. I feel like every USPS person I've worked with, very matter of fact. And I don't know if it's just because they're dealing with people all day, and therefore they're like, okay, da 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 da. Not unfriendly, but straightforward. But anyway, so I went there to return some stuff. It went fine, it went smooth, but I was like, "Man, I'd much prefer to return it elsewhere." So then, this was my errands kind of day. When you're staying at home doing a staycation type thing, errands become your outings, right? And so the other thing that I had to do was get an oil change. And again, and I know I've mentioned this, I think, on this podcast. I said I know and I think. And that is getting oil changes for me are just as awkward because I hate driving through that little thing and hoping I don't put my wheel in the little hole, which I have done before, people. And I hate when they're like, turn to the left, to the right, stop, back up. Makes me nervous, makes me anxious, don't like it, but I did it. And if you've been to an oil change place, you know you're going to be there at least an hour and a half. If you go with that mindset, it's not as bad. If you go in there thinking, okay, I'll be out in like 30, 45, no, you got to know that even though there's like one or car or two in front of you, you're going to be sitting there for at least an hour and a half. So as long as you go in like that, it's not too bad. But this last time, so on top of me feeling awkward about what to do, I tend to lose my confidence in certain areas, like the postal service place, the oil change place. I use my confidence. And this last time, along with my confidence, I must have lost my hearing because the guy, he was like, you know how they yell at you, turn your left blinker on, right blinker, brakes, turn on your headlights, da 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 da. And it's like my brain doesn't, it stops. It doesn't think. It's like, what? What mode? Like, if I was just sitting in my car, my husband's like, hey, turn on your headlights. And I'm like, okay, I'll just turn them on. But when this guy asked me, first, it took me forever to register that he wanted me to turn on my headlights. And then I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I flipped it to auto, which didn't turn them on, I guess, because we were in the daytime. I don't know. And then I was like, are they not on? He was like, headlights. And I was like, oh, no, what do I do? So I kept turning it. And then apparently I turned it on and then turned it off. He was like, you had it there for a second. I was like, oh, no. So I was like, I lose all intelligence apparently when it comes to cars when I'm at that place. So I couldn't hear. I was doing the wrong thing. Um, and what was the other one? I can't remember. One of the ones, y'all, one time I went there, not this time because I've learned, but they were like, open your hood. And I was like, oh no, where's the hood button? I need to, in my brain, before I go to oil change, it's not like I didn't have time. I had an hour and 20 minutes to review all these things, but I should have went and I should have reviewed like, okay, headlights, turn these on. And he was like, it's the what did he call it? The little jellyfish. I was like, okay. So practice my headlights, practice my turn signals, practice my brakes, practice opening the hood, and knowing that my VIN number is on the side of my car. Like things like that. I'm like, just review those things so you don't act as silly as you actually feel. So yeah, so that was a couple of my errands. They went they went well. They were awkward, but they were definitely not confidence boosting errands, which you guys know sometimes I have those. But those were not the case. And you think that was it? You think that would be it? Mm-mm. There's one more. Let me tell you guys about one more, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before as well, but alas, it's another experience. Car washes, okay? As I went into the car wash, I was like, I need to get my car washed. You know, I've got cicada guts all over my car, y'all know, and all them cicadas, which, by the way, I've noticed that they have gone away, I think. Like, I haven't seen them as much, which is great. I was like, oh, they really did like die within 6 weeks. So, yay for that. I'm glad we haven't seen them. But yes, so since they have been gone and since I killed at least 100 of them with my car, and had their guts all over my car. I went and got a car wash. And again, car washes make me feel quite awkward because I mean, like again, that whole like, how far do I drive? Da 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 da. And now they're not as bad as oil change places because there's nobody there to witness your, your what's going on. But this last time, the car wash, two things happened that was like, why, why? The first thing was I had put my card in and I paid for my car wash and they're like, go ahead and pull ahead. I was like, great. So I'm pulling ahead and while I'm pulling ahead, I push my roll up window because I have that kind where you can like push it down once and then it'll just roll all the way down. You don't have to hold it. And so I assumed that if I pulled it up, it would do the same thing. Well, I was driving ahead, and in my brain, I thought I had a little bit of time to roll up my window. So I pulled it up a little bit, but it didn't go up all the way. I was like, okay, let me at least get my car situated and then I'll pull it up. Okay. There's not much time between when you get your car situated, which for me, I actually had to back up some. It gave me the little backup sign, that little yellow backup sign, please, because I went too far. So I did that, and then I was like, okay. And y'all tell me immediately, as soon as I got ready, it was like, "Meow," and then like the soap stuff started coming. So like I rolled up my window, but I will admit I got a little bit of soap on me. that, that came a lot quicker than I expected. I mean, I know that it doesn't waste time, but you guys, I was like, who gets sprinkled on in their car, like at a car wash. No, like I said, it was literally a sprinkle. It was like 2 seconds. I was like, oh, okay. Let me roll it. Let me hold it because I had to hold it instead of it automatically going up. And by the time it made it all the way up, I did get a couple sprinkles on me. But alas, we made it through, and it was fine and it was good. And I got my car wash and I got the little blowy thing. I got the deluxe, um, where it'll, I guess, dry off your car for the most part. And I like going through that. I always feel like I go through it too quickly. Like I feel like I don't know that I need a rush or something, or would only get half my car. Which, if it did, like, how terrible is that, honestly? But yeah, went through there, got through there. Again, it was awkward. It was not my favorite thing, but it was an errand that I got done, and so hey, accomplished even the awkward things. All right, so. The next thing I want to share with you guys is that my husband and I had our 12th wedding anniversary. Woohoo! So we've been married for officially 12 years, which is awesome. It has gone by quick and slow. I mean, like, I feel like we've been married 12 years, but at the same time, I'm like, am I old enough to have been married for 12 years? Wow. um, obviously I've enjoyed it. I love my husband. I'm so glad we still love and like each other. That's huge. It's so important to like your spouse. Um, and so with that, we decided to go. We weren't doing a big vacation this time, but we decided to go out to eat. And normally, if we don't do some big vacation, we will do just a nice, fancy restaurant. And we chose to do, my husband actually found this restaurant called Mesh. The name of it is terrible, like Mesh, like Mesh, Mesh. And I was like, I don't like the name of that. That doesn't appeal to me. But when I looked up the menu, they had crab cakes and I was like immediately sold. I was like, oh, of course. I love crab cakes. You can't get them everywhere. And usually if you go to a nice restaurant, the crab cakes are like they're real. Like you're gonna get some real crab with that. And so that, of course, excited me. And I was like, yes, let's do the crab cakes for me. He doesn't do seafood really, but so we went there and it ended up being nice. The ambiance was nice. It was, I would say, if you have an anniversary to go to, definitely hit it up if you haven't heard of it. It's worth it. It's a nice ambiance. It's, I would say price wise, we spent for both of us 100 and I would say $50. And we got an appetite. We both got an appetizer. We both got an entree. We did not get anything to drink. I think we both got water. But we both got a dessert, like about 150 and then add your tip to that. So it wasn't too bad price wise. And so I got it was this spinach and artichoke crab dip. So they had like your regular spinach and artichoke dip, but then they added like this big old chunk of crab. Y'all, I was like, y'all are speaking my language. I can add crab to anything, stuffed crab, anything I can add to that. I love the flavor of crab. And so that was really good. And it was a big, hefty portion. Like you could definitely share. I didn't. I mean, my husband got like a bite, but he's not really into spinach dip or crab. So it was all mine. And they served it with these like pita bread things that were amazing. I mean, they were the perfect amount of crisp. They weren't hard, but crisp. I don't know. They were golden, lovely triangle things that dipped magnificently in that crab dip. And then the other thing is if you don't like crab, it was like a big chunk of like crab on this on like on top of it to the side. So there's still like, 3/4 of it that of the spinach dip that didn't have crab. Like you'd have to mix it if you really wanted it. Or if you wanted a ton of crab, you could just, dip into the crab and then get you a little bit of spinach dip. So if you do want to share with someone and they're not feeling crab, you can still definitely get it and share and they don't have to have the crab part. So I'll throw that out there. And my husband, he got their soup. I think he ended up getting their it was like their chicken tortilla soup, maybe something like that, and Southwest soup. I can't remember, but it was good. I got a little sample of it, and he enjoyed that. And then we had and then our waiter. I loved our waiter. He reminded me of my little cousin, and which they're not really little, they're grown now, but he reminded me of my cousin. And I mean, because he reminded me so much of my cousin, I was just in love with the little guy. Like, and I say little guy because he looked like 19 or 20. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that could be my cousin. And so I was just happy. But he also was just pleasant and friendly and smiling. And I just loved him. I can't remember his name. I don't know if he told us our name. I think it began with a D. I don't know, but he was really nice. Super sweet. And I think he said it was like his first week there or something. I was like, well, you're doing great. Um, and then my husband and I for the entree, he of course got his steak on top of mashed potatoes, which there's this huge plate, and of course it just comes out in the middle, but it was filling. I think he didn't even eat the whole thing. And then I had the crab cakes, which weren't on the menu, but I had seen them online. And so I asked for them and they're like, we got you. Like, yes, we do serve them even though they're not on the menu. And so I got these two big old crab cakes with a real crab, not my little imitation crab, which I do like, but with a real crab, and it was on top of. I, y'all, I don't even know what these little things were. They look like little balls, little pasta balls. Interesting texture, just little flavored balls. I don't even know how to describe them, and then with like sliced, I think carrots and zucchini maybe, and then also what was the other? What else was on there? I can't remember. I might have just been it. But anyway, so I ate one crab cake and still had the other one left over. And then they had the desserts, which you guys, okay, I had seen online they had this chocolate mousse thing. And I was like, that's what I want. It was huge. It looked amazing. And I was like, I want it. But then on the menu, I saw that they had a peanut butter pie with Reese's on top. And I was like, oh no, that sounds really good. My husband's like, well, I'll get that because it does sound good. And I was like, okay, I'll get the chocolate thing. They brought them both out. And y'all, as much as I wanted my chocolate thing, I could not stop eyeballing my husband's Reese peanut butter pie thing. You guys, and he ended up letting me have some. Trust me, I begged him. I was like, please let me have a bite. Please, 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 please. He's like, you got this big old chocolate mousse cake. And I was like, I know, but we've been married for 12 years. And he let me have a bite, a very small bite and a half. And then he was like, nope, this is mine. But then he did give it to me later that evening when we got home because we did not finish. Those things were huge. But it was, y'all, both of them were excellent. But if I had to pick between the two, like I want to go back just for that Reese's pie. That mess. And I think they were like $7, maybe $8 each. that Reese's pie's worth it. I would go back just to pick me up some of that pie and bring it home. Like that's about how much it costs a homemade ice cream packaging, right? So like it gets you a good hefty. I mean, it had like that chocolate crumble, probably about a centimeter thick on the bottom. I know, right? Like I love the crust of things if it's good, right? And so it was good chocolate crust, and the peanut butter part in the middle was about an inch thick, and it was like thick peanut butter. Like you could tell it was peanut butter. And then on top of that was the Reese's, and I'm not talking like three pieces. I'm talking about some crumbles on that thing. And then they had like this whipped cream stuff that was like salted though, like but tasted good. Y'all, I don't like whipped cream, but even I was like, what? That's good. Like even that's good. You guys, it was excellent. It was so good. So again, I would have to recommend Mesh, Mesh, if you have an anniversary coming up or just a date night or just something that you want to celebrate. Go there. Birthday, y'all, it was worth it. It was so good. So speaking of our anniversary, it's so funny because Hubs and I we actually did this today, and it's so funny. And I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but if not, or if I have, this would be a good reminder. So here is my relationship advice with Phoebe, marriage advice. This is not a marriage podcast, but if it were, this would be one of the things that I would suggest for any newlyweds, or even oldlyweds. If you've been married for a long time, this is just a funny thing if you guys both get on board. So a long time ago, husband and I, we went through this phase early in our marriage where we would argue about just whatever. And and we each had things we would always say about the other person, like say to the other person. He'd be like, you're being petulant. That was his word, petulant. And I remember that word because I think when I read The Taming of the Shrew, I feel like they called her petulant, but I can't remember. But I was like, like petulant just means, to me, it meant annoying and obnoxious, right? And so I think he meant it that way, but he'd be like, "Ah, you're just being so petulant," which is a fancy word because it's like smart husband. I knew I married a smart one, but at the same time, don't call me petulant. And then I would always say, "Oh, you're just tripping. You're tripping over that. Why are you tripping about that? Like, why are you making a big deal out of nothing? Why are you tripping?" So then I don't remember where I heard it or how I heard it, but I read somewhere that if you change those words to the opposite of what they mean, to each of you, but that way you can like change the word, and then you can use those words when you're feeling that way, but your spouse takes it better. You're like, what? Let me give you an example. So my husband was like, okay, so instead of calling you petulant, what would you rather be called? And I was like, invigorating. Like it has to be something similar, right? Something not similar, but like related to that word, either the opposite of it or similar to it. I was like, okay, I would rather be invigorating, like someone who's exciting, and the way you're being just invigorates me. And he was like, okay, fine. And then for tripping, we decided on instead of tripping, it would be the opposite of that. To me, it was like, okay, you're being reasonable, right? And so when we would get into these arguments, this is a quick way to diffuse an argument while still getting your point across, is we would look at each other. And when I was being petulant, instead of saying, you are being so petulant, he would be like, you are just invigorating. And I would know what he meant. Like I know he'd be like, you're frustrating me, you're being annoying and obnoxious right now. But because he said invigorating, my little self would be like, like I would still feel excited because I'm like, oh, like he thinks I'm great, right? So I would get the message while also not becoming offended by the words, right? And I would do the same. And it's so funny. It's so hard to do sometimes, but it was hilarious and diffuse the situation. Whenever I thought he was tripping about something, I'm like, why are you making a big deal of this? I would just be like, you are being so reasonable. And it was just hearing that would just be hilarious. Like, because neither of them are words we use often. So when we use them, then we know, hey, we're making a point here. But hearing it would make me laugh. It would make him laugh, but it would also get our feelings out without offending the other person, if that makes sense. So I would say try that. If there's something like if between you and your spouse there's a phrase, or if there is a phrase, or there's something that you guys say to each other, that you probably shouldn't, but because you're married people and you're human, you're like, oh my gosh, you're being this, switch out the word with something positive. But of course talk about with your spouse, and then I'm telling you, it really will change some of your arguments, because like I said, recently we had, I don't want to say an argument, but a discussion, and it was so funny. And he was like, you're being invigorating. And I was like, well, you're being reasonable. And it's just funny. So a tidbit of marriage advice, that if if there is some way that you argue, I'm telling you, words make a difference. And that way you can even say it around other people. And I mean, I don't know that we've ever said it around other people. Most of our arguments aren't really public arguments, I would say. But if there is something, then you guys kind of you have your own code words and you have your own kind of language that you both understand without, any offense having to necessarily happen. So anyway, that is my marriage advice. 12 years in, we still do that. I don't know exactly when we started it either, but anywho, so yes, I am invigorating and he is reasonable. All right, guys. So one other thing, I wrote this down. I wrote some of my favorite, one of my favorite things about church. And that was, I said there's so many, and I could do a ranking on that, like best church moments or best church things. But most recently, one of my favorite things about church, one of those moments that remind you that God's listening and loves you and stuff. And it was when my pastor was speaking. It was on a Wednesday night, and just regular Bible study teaching, and sometimes you go in and you're like, okay, and we're gonna get a good word, but you just it's just life living type stuff. I wasn't anticipating anything extraordinary per se, but just good things. And but pastor said this one line or phrase, and it just clicked with my spirit, and all of a sudden, like, a little bit of fire was breathed into me, and like just a decision that I was trying to wrestle with became clear, and my outlook shifted to the better. And it was just a phrase, and I loved it. And I let it stay with me. The whole message was good. All the points were good, but this one phrase, it resonated with me, and I was like, oh, and it changed my perspective on the situation completely. I wouldn't say completely, but I was wrestling. I was going back and forth, and but that one phrase, it put me on the side that I needed to be on, and I was like, oh, now it made, like, it just clicked. I was like, oh, okay, and I promise you, from that moment on, I didn't wrestle with the same thought. I was like, "Oh, well, this makes sense now." And I was like, "God, I absolutely love that." I was like, "Thank you." Like, don't you just love when you go to church and you get that one word or phrase or just moment where you're like, "Oh," and something clicks in your spirit and you're like, "I needed that. I didn't even realize I needed it." And it wasn't a big thing I was wrestling with. It wasn't like some major life-changing decision. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like a tiny wrestling that I was doing within myself, and it instantly was like, okay, that's God's perspective on this. Okay, I get that. I can, okay, all right. And it clicked for me. And then, like, later on that week, when I was like reading my Bible, I was able to like read more stuff that kind of supported that, and I was able to do things, and I was able to pray a little different about it, and it just made things better. So that was just one thing. Find you a good church if you don't got one, for those moments that you don't even expect. I think that's the cool part, was I wasn't expecting, I wasn't looking, I wasn't seeking. Sometimes you're looking and you're seeking, and even you're expecting, and that's good, and God will answer, and sometimes you feel like I waited this whole service and I feel like nothing, and sometimes that's it too. But I love those moments where I wasn't really even expecting it, and then God was like, "Hey, what about this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's good, God." So I am thankful for that. And guess what? You won't get that if you don't go to church, okay? So go to church, because yeah, even though it may be when you least expect it, right? And so I wasn't expecting that, but I definitely appreciated it, and appreciated just how it helped me figure out my little situation that I was dealing with. Um, so yeah, and then okay. I was, y'all, I did go back to Popeyes, and I got my signature hot wings again. And I've gotten them twice since then now. And I've downloaded the app, and I got my little BOGO hot wings. And yes, and you guys, if there's anywhere you go remotely more than once or twice, go ahead and get the app so you can get the rewards, okay? So, so I got my Popeyes, and I got my signature hot. And one thing I've noticed, and I think everybody does this, but I don't know. That's why I'm throwing it out there, is that I try to save the best looking wing for last. Okay. Now, so in my ranking, that means that the wing that doesn't have the most sauce on it, I eat first, pretty much. It's like, okay, let me just start here. And I don't know what the psychology is around this. I'd have to look it up. But I'm like, okay, let me get this done. And for me, that's also all the legs. I'll eat the legs first, right? And then it's the flat part. Oh, that's my favorite. That's my favorite. So I'll eat the little legs. Those will go first. There's like three of those. The ones with the least amount of sauce get eaten first. And then I'll go for the little flat part. And I mean, I'm dipping them in that sauce. And whichever one is like looks like the most seasoned, the juiciest, the best one, I save it for last. And I do that with I think it's gotta be I don't know if it's a human thing. Like, does everybody first off, does everybody even pay attention to that? That I do not know. Second, if you do pay attention, do you intentionally save the best for last? Or are you one of those who's like, I want the best piece first and then I'll just settle on the last? Because I could see where that would be a thing if you were like wanting, like, think about like if you were like, I'm hungry now, so this first bite is going to be amazing, so it might as well be the best piece, because by the time I get to the last piece, I'm already kind of full, and therefore it may not taste as good. So I get the logic, as if you want to eat the best thing first, right? But I don't know, I don't do that. I might have to try that. I have to see, like, is it better to eat the best part first? Would that help me lose weight, you guys? If all of a sudden I'm like, okay, new weight loss plan. Start with the best thing that by the time you get to like, well, I don't even want this this little wing that doesn't even have any sauce on it. So then you just save it for later or give it to somebody else. That might be a thing, you guys. But anyway, the other thing I do is I do that with like cookies and stuff. Like, I will eat the outside of a cookie first, because to me that's the worst part. I like my cookies mushy, y'all. I like them mushy and squishy. And so I'll eat the outside, which is usually a little harder, which usually has more of a crust first. And then I will eat the inside, which is the gooey, yummy part, right? And so I'm like, because that's the best part. So I'm wondering, like, okay, I guess I don't know, it has to be a thing. But at the same time, should I eat the best part first? Our life is not promised to us. Maybe we should eat the best thing first. Anyways, you guys. So, aside from that philosophical conversation there, I saved the best for last. I was wondering if anybody else does that. But anyway, so then I have to tell you guys about I had a training, and it was a tech training, and this is one I did it last year. I might have talked about it last year, I can't remember. But it's one I do every year. It's a tech training. Last year it was so funny because we had a tech training where like one of the guys was talking about the like how bad technology is for kids, which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, this is technology, like this training is all about technology, and he's over here like, technology is terrible for kids. I think he's the one who got me on the Anxious Generation book, honestly. And so this year for our tech training, it was so funny. It started about 8 o'clock. Y'all, tell me why the power went out at like 7:45 apparently. And they were like, the power's out. It did come back on probably about 8:15, 8:20. But I was like, a tech training with no power, like this is not gonna go well. But it ended up coming back on and it was fine. And so the training went fine. I was there with a couple of my teacher friends from work, and that was good. And I got Zaxby's that day. You guys, I forgot. I don't even think I wrote this down. Let me tell y'all had a very bad fast food day. And what I mean was, the day before my training, it just so happened to be this way. I did not plan it to be this way, but it just happened to be this way. That I ate fast food 3 times in one day. I know. And it didn't even include breakfast, y'all. I know. So I had lunch, and for lunch because I ate lunch on my own, I think. And when I went to lunch, I decided to get, what did I get? Oh, what did I get? I think I got, no, Qdoba. Qdoba? Qdoba. Yes, I got Qdoba. Okay. So for lunch, I got me some Qdoba. I was just hungry. I was like, let me get some Qdoba. So then I was meeting my friend for dinner, and we decided to get Zaxby's. So I was like, great, okay, let's do some Zaxby's. So this is twice in one day. And I was already feeling kind of like, oh, this is not good. Well, then on my way home, I was just like, hey, can you pick up some wings from Popeyes? And I was like, how can I say no? I got my BOGO. And I had wings. So you all, in one day, I had Qdoba, Zaxby's, and Popeyes. If you see me wobbling around, don't say a word. Just know that I've been eating good and terrible at the same time. Okay. I was like, this is terrible. And then the next day, when I had my training, the tech training, I went to Zaxby's again with my teacher friends. And I was like, you guys, I feel terrible, but I had Zaxby's yesterday. It was so funny because we were thinking about going keto, but I was like, I went yesterday. And I was like, but Zaxby's is good. I said, even though I went yesterday, they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I ate out a lot yesterday. So I was like, I need to slow my roll, I really do. But anyway, so the training went well, but it was a reminder of going back to work. You all, okay. Anyway, it was fine. It was 8 to 3, so it wasn't even too bad. We had an hour and a half for lunch. It was really great, honestly. I even won a prize. I won a registration to apparently this big tech conference that they have every year that's huge and like costs a couple $100s to go to, and I won that, so that was cool. Um, and so it was good overall, but it definitely reminded me like, okay, man, it's coming. Y'all, school's in 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Y'all, I'm not ready. I am not ready. But anywho, so that was my training. It went fine. It was good. The power did end up coming back on, and everything went great. That was that day. So I do have a very quick hematology moment, and that was so I was going to my HEMA. And y'all, tell me why I forgot what floor it was on. I've been to quite a few doctors here lately, and I could not remember for the life of me which floor it was on. It was between one and five. So when I got on the elevator, it was just me. So I was like, it's either three or five. Y'all, I pushed three, four, and five. I was like, it's gotta be one of them. And so I just pushed all of them. So the third floor opened. I was like, oh, nope, that's not it, which was good. Nobody was there and it was fine. The fourth floor opened. It opens and there's these two people just sitting there, like in the waiting room, looking at me. The guy smiles and I smile. I don't move. He doesn't move. The door opens and the door closes. That was awkward. And then, yes, it was floor number five. So then I go up to the fifth floor. Everything was fine. And the dogs were back. The Wags dogs, like the special dogs, they were back. I don't think it was the same two, because I think one was I don't know, because they were leaving as I was coming on. But anyway, so there were dogs there again. The HEMA place was fine. It was good. I wasn't there very long, so I was in and out, but just had to share that if you don't know what floor you're on, go ahead and push all of them, and one of them will be right. Even if it is the top one. Anywho, though you might have to endure some awkward moments when the door opens and you don't step out and you're the only one in there. So that might be a little weird, but that was fine. Um, the other thing that I wanted to say is, okay, so I'm kind of almost embarrassed to admit this. This is so funny and embarrassing. This is a What's on Phoebe's algorithm, y'all, lately, because they got me. They got me. Has anyone seen, and if you haven't, I guess it's just me. But there's this thing, it's like a dating thing, I assume, and it's like pop the balloon, right? And it's these, like, usually there's a girl or guy who come up, and then there's a line of girls or guys on the opposite side. And so if there's a girl that comes up, there's like a line of guys who are potential interest, and each of them have a red balloon. And you pop the balloon when you become uninterested in that person, or they have a chance to pop your balloon if they're uninterested in you. Y'all, tell me why they have been getting me lately. Like it comes on, and it's the little captions that get me. Like, oh, these two end up being a great couple, or oh no, everybody popped their balloon the minute they saw them. And it's been catching my attention. And it's so funny because when you click one, 5 million more pop up, right? I mean, that's why I even have this segment, because I'm always amazed by, like, okay, I clicked one thing and now I get it every other ad. But I've been clicking on them. I've been clicking on these little pop the balloon things, and I'm like, this is somewhat interesting. I don't watch all of them because sometimes I'm like, okay, I can't. But sometimes I'm curious, like, what people say and why they're popping balloons and things. And I was like, y'all, I think we need a Pentecostal version of this. Other than people might get offended with balloons popped. I mean, y'all, we are to this point that we've got to find a way to get people to meet people, right? And in a nice, quick, efficient way. And I'm like, could you imagine a nice Pentecostal version of this? Like, you get your young lady or your young man, and you give, well, maybe we'll start with the young men, because then the young ladies, there's like a lot of them, and they can Like, I feel like it's less offensive if a girl pops her balloon versus if a guy pops his balloon, right? So maybe we'll start with some young men, and then the girls can just be lined up, and then they're like, "Nope," or "Hey, yeah," and then they can talk to him about his interest and things like that, or his ministry, and they can choose to pop their balloon. I don't know. We need to do a Pentecostal version of this. Look, if I was in charge of NAYC, I would have a hyphen event where you would be pop the balloon. Oh, this is terrible. Anyway, they would very quickly probably kick me off of any type of committee and say, no, that's not a good idea. But somehow we got to get these people. There are way too many amazing single people in the church who need to find some other single people. But the pop the balloon thing has been on my algorithm. I am ashamed and embarrassed to admit. But it gave me an idea for a possible future ministry. I mean, it would be a very shallow one, but maybe we can come up with something. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something else. I don't know what, but it could be something else. Um, but anywho, so that I just had to embarrassingly share that. And that's about it. I did have this past weekend, and this kind of goes into kind of news that I've been wanting to share. Um, but this past weekend, I had a trip to the ER. I'm okay, things will be okay. But I did have a trip to the ER, and I was very surprised when I went how it didn't feel as hectic. And I've always said this, like, it doesn't, hospitals, they seem very busy, but like on TV, it's like everybody's like rolling everywhere and there's things everywhere. But when I actually go, I feel like it's not that busy. I'm not saying they're not busy, but I don't feel like I see what I see if I watch like a medical drama or something, right? And so, I went to the ER and there was like a line of us, it was mostly older people that I saw there, but then I saw some younger people and I was like, okay, this is pretty chill. But then this lady did come in and she was like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And then they like checked her oxygen and then she was fine. But she did eventually get her inhaler. And then this other lady came in. I wasn't there. Her husband was like, she was talking to herself and like banging on the vending machine and stuff like that. And they were like, we were kind of like, oh, but then she left. And so apparently interesting things do happen in the ER. um, but the other thing I noticed is we all call it an ER still, but I think it's changed to ED. At some point it changed, maybe a long time ago, to the emergency department. Um, I feel like ER, like I always say emergency room, but I guess it's the emergency department. Like everywhere I looked, it was like ED, emergency department. So maybe that's, I don't want to say the new name for it, but it's kind of like I was just like, oh, because I was saying I'm going to the ER, but I guess technically I'm going to the ED. I don't know. Do they still if you know, let me know if they still have an ER versus an ED, or if there's a difference, or if they're the same. It's kind of like my job being ESL versus ELD. Like it's like, like we just changed it a little bit. But anyway, um, yeah, so I did go to the ER. I had some things I was concerned about, but it ended up being okay for the most part. Still keep me in your prayers. But while I was there, I had a male nurse, and he was very nice. Again, he had trouble getting my blood, y'all, my veins. He commented, he was like, the last time I saw veins this tiny was on a 2-year-old. I was like, they always have trouble getting my blood, but anyway, I ended up having a decent experience there, and the nurse was cool. And then the doc that was there, you guys, I was like, oh my goodness. I don't want to say he looked like a TV doc, but he really did. Like he wasn't in like a doctor's outfit. He had on like dark scrub, like black or gray, dark gray scrub pants, but they were kind of tight, honestly. And then maybe they weren't scrub pants, but they were kind of tight. And then he had on almost like a bomber jacket, but it wasn't leather. So it was like a bomber jacket, but in a different material, but same kind of look. And he was tall, dark hair, and I was like, "Huh, he's an interesting doc." And I trusted him and everything like that, but I was kind of like, I don't know, you look too cool to be a doctor. Like, give me the old guy who's been here for 30 years, um, maybe I'm just used to my hematologist, but yeah, he was cool. The whole experience was fine overall. Everybody was friendly. I had a couple nurses come in and they were all great. So shout out to any type of medical personnel. You guys are awesome. Yeah, but I'm about to wrap things up here. This is a little bit shorter than normal. I'm not entirely sure how long I'll be these upcoming episodes. Y'all know I like my hour-long episodes, but I don't know how long I'll be going each time. Because look, I'll go ahead and let you all know. I'll let y'all know in a secret. It's not a secret actually. But I haven't shared it with Facebook. I did intend to tell you all this, I think this episode, because am officially 12 weeks. So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to tell my people, my podcast people." So, yes, my podcast peeps, I am pregnant again. Yay. This is not my first time after Elena that I've been pregnant. I was pregnant once more, but I did have a miscarriage again back in March. But I am currently 12 weeks pregnant, and I do feel comfortable telling my podcast peeps, you guys are special. Y'all are my next step up. I do want to talk and share about my thoughts and feelings on sharing this pregnancy. Y'all, I have been, I'm not going to go into it now because I do need to go rest. But I've been nervous, of course. You guys know, I've been nervous about the whole experience, even leading up to now. Even now, I'm very nervous. But I do want to share, because I want people to like know that my kid exists. There's that part of me that's like, man, I'm scared. Like, what if I say something and then something goes wrong? But even if something goes wrong, I want some people to know my baby existed, even if for a little while. And I know that was one thing that that bothered me a little bit with Elena was I had just shared that she even existed to the world on Facebook. I think I was 14 or 15 weeks when I eventually did end up sharing. I think I was 14 weeks when I put it out there. And then I lost her just a few weeks later. And I was like, people barely even had a chance to celebrate her life before she was gone. And so while it's scary to kind of share early, at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I I want to share because I want people to know this baby exists for however long this baby will be here, and I'm I'm claiming a whole lifetime for this child. I'm claiming that, but if God has other plans or something like that, I still want people to know this baby existed. So I was like, I can share it with my podcast peeps. I'm not putting it on Facebook yet, so I'm not saying you have to keep it a secret, but. um so it's not a secret, but I'm not necessarily blasting it to Facebook yet. I haven't decided on how I'm going to post that. I'm sure you guys will hear my thoughts on how I'm going to come up with that post, but I think I will share that in the next couple of weeks. So yes, if you are a praying person on my podcast, keep me in your prayers. The ER visit was related to that. Basically, they're like, rest, rest, and we're gonna get through this. And so keep me in your prayers. Um, and all of that, and I am excited. I will share a little more about everything. Um, but yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you've had an amazing last couple of weeks. I can't wait to share with you guys even more about everything that's been happening in this last summer, baby included. I say this last summer, this past few weeks, I would say, baby included, all the things, and hopefully lovely plans for the future with this child. We'll see. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. I hope y'all have just an amazing next couple of weeks. I hope I do too. You guys are my peeps. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. And yeah, I'll catch y'all in a couple weeks.